Constant comparison. Constantly comparing yourself to others is one of the most common mistakes that people make. It happens almost automatically in daily life, whether it is looking at someone else's career, relationships, or even what they post. Online, the basic idea of comparison is natural. It helps us understand where we stand. However, when it becomes constant, it creates problems that are easy to overlook. At its core, comparison measures your own progress against someone else's. You might see a friend buying a new car and think that you are falling behind financially, or notice a colleague receiving recognition at work and wonder why you have not. Social media strengthens this habit even more. Seeing curated snapshots of other people's lives gives the impression that everyone else is doing better, even if that picture is incomplete. The issue is that comparison rarely accounts for context. You might be comparing your starting point to someone else's middle or their highlight reel to your everyday reality. This can lead to frustration, lowered self-confidence, and decisions that do not align with your actual needs. For example, chasing a promotion you do not want, or spending money on things you do not need just to keep up with others. A more useful approach is to compare yourself with your own past progress, instead of asking how you measure up to someone else. It is more practical to notice whether you have improved from where you were a year ago. That shift changes the compares from a negative cycle into a tool for growth. Constantly comparing yourself is a mistake because it distracts you from your own path and pushes you to measure success with someone else's definition. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward making choices that are actually right for you. Ignoring health until it is too late. Ignoring health. Most people will push through a headache, stay up late to finish work, or skip meals because they are busy. In the moment, it feels like a small compromise. Nothing serious enough to worry about. However, these small choices accumulate, and when they become routine, they slowly shape long-term health. The body does not break down all at once. It adjusts to poor sleep, unhealthy food, or lack of exercise for years before showing clear signs. A person might sit for long hours every day, rely on packaged meals, or ignore stress. For a while, it seems manageable. Then suddenly, the problems appear: constant fatigue, weight gain, or chronic pain that does not go away as easily as it once did. What initially seemed like minor habits reveal themselves as the foundation of illness. The challenge is that prevention never feels urgent, while treatment always does. It is easier to ignore a warning sign than to make consistent lifestyle changes. But that delay often turns into larger consequences. For example, someone who avoids routine checkups might discover an advanced condition that could have been treated earlier with far less effort. Health influences more than just the body. Poor sleep impacts focus at work, and stress spills into personal relationships. Small habits like staying active, eating balanced meals, and scheduling regular checkups make daily life easier and create a safety net for the future. The mistake many people make is waiting until their health forces them to act, instead of taking small preventive steps when it is still easy to do so. Work as identity. Treating work as your only identity, spending long hours at work, checking emails late at night, or tying your self-worth entirely to career performance are common patterns in modern life. Over time, this can lead to the mistake of treating work as the only identity you have. Work provides structure, income, and a sense of achievement. However, when it becomes the sole measure of value, the rest of life begins to narrow. Relationships, health, hobbies, and personal growth are gradually pushed aside. A person might decline social plans because they feel too busy, skip exercise to meet deadlines, or avoid learning new skills outside their field because they see little relevance beyond the job. The problem is not dedication itself, but imbalance. Jobs can change, companies restructure, and careers shift in ways outside personal control. When identity is built only around work, these changes feel devastating because there is nothing else to fall back on. Even success can feel hollow if it comes at the cost of personal connections or a sense of fulfillment outside the office. Examples are easy to find. Someone may achieve a promotion but realize they have lost touch with friends. Another person may retire after decades of focus on work and struggle to adjust without the structure and recognition their career once provided. In both cases, life outside of work feels underdeveloped. A healthier approach is to view work as one part of your identity rather than the whole. Maintaining friendships, engaging in hobbies, and caring for physical and mental health provide balance. These areas create resilience so that when work shifts, a person still has other sources of meaning and stability. Treating work as your only identity is a mistake because it limits life to a single role and leaves everything else underdeveloped. Chasing money, many people work hard to earn more money, but few take the time to learn how to manage it. At first, the focus is on increasing income. However, income alone does not guarantee stability or security. Without a plan, even a higher salary can disappear quickly. The pattern often looks the same. A person gets a raise or a better job, then upgrades their lifestyle to match. A bigger paycheck leads to a new car, frequent dining out, or unnecessary purchases. Bills increase, but savings do not. When an emergency arrives, there is little to fall back on. Despite earning more, the stress of living paycheck to paycheck remains. The core issue is financial literacy, which includes the basic understanding of budgeting, saving, and investing. It is not taught in most schools, so people often learn through trial and error. Some avoid budgeting because it feels restrictive, while others assume that simply earning more will solve financial problems. But money without management often creates the same cycle of debt and anxiety at every income level. Practical management is straightforward. Tracking expenses shows where money is really going. Setting aside a portion for emergencies creates a buffer against unexpected events. Planning for long-term goals like retirement ensures that years of work build into security rather than uncertainty. Even simple habits such as paying off high-interest debt first or automating savings make a measurable difference. Chasing money without learning how to manage it is a mistake because it creates the illusion of progress while leaving the underlying problems untouched. Financial security comes less from how much is earned and more from how well it is managed. Rest as wasted time. Many people feel guilty when they take a break, as if rest is something earned only after complete exhaustion. This mindset frames leisure as wasted time, when in reality, it is an essential part of recovery. Rest is not separate from productivity. It is what allows productivity to happen. Just like a phone battery, the human body and mind run down with continuous use. Without recharging, focus weakens, mistakes increase, and motivation slips. Sleep is the most obvious example. Skipping proper rest might create extra hours in the short term, but those hours are often filled with slower work and lower quality results. Leisure plays a similar role. Doing something enjoyable, such as watching a show, walking outside, or meeting a friend, is not simply indulgence. It gives the brain space to reset and reorganize information. Studies on learning show that downtime helps. People retain knowledge more effectively than non-stop effort. This is why long study sessions, when broken up by breaks, often outperform hours of uninterrupted work. Physical health also depends on recovery. Muscles grow stronger after rest, not during the workout itself. Ignoring this principle leads to injury instead of improvement. The same pattern holds true for mental stamina. Constantly pushing without recovery leads to burnout, where motivation disappears altogether. In daily life, the effects are easy to spot. Someone who takes regular breaks at work usually returns with more energy and clearer focus, while the person who refuses to pause often ends the day drained and less effective. Rest and leisure are not obstacles to progress, but necessary steps in sustaining it. Treating them as recovery rather than wasted time makes it possible to perform better, stay healthier, and maintain long-term consistency in both work and personal life. Perfectionism stops progress. It is common to delay finishing something because it does not feel perfect yet. A task is started, and small details are adjusted over and over. Progress slows until the work is stuck in a cycle of endless revision. This is what happens when perfectionism stops progress, a mistake that turns the desire to do something well into the reason it never gets done. Perfectionism often begins with good intentions, wanting a project, assignment, or personal goal to be of high quality is reasonable. The problem arises when the focus shifts from making steady progress to avoiding any flaw at all. For example, a student writing an essay may spend hours rewriting the introduction, leaving no time to complete the rest. At work, a presentation might be endlessly tweaked for design instead of being shared on time. In everyday life, even simple tasks like organizing a room or starting a fitness routine can stall because every detail must feel ideal before moving forward. The cost of this habit is that momentum disappears. Deadlines are missed, opportunities are passed up, and projects remain unfinished. Over time, this creates frustration and lowers confidence as people see effort poured in without visible results. Progress, even when imperfect, is what allows skills to grow and improvements to build naturally. By waiting for flawless conditions, the chance to learn through action is lost. One practical way to counter this is to set clear limits. Deciding in advance how much time or how many revisions something will receive forces forward movement. Another way is to focus on completion first, then refine later once the foundation is in place. These small shifts help separate quality from perfection and keep projects moving. Perfectionism feels productive, but when it blocks progress, it becomes one of the most effective ways to prevent real achievement. Overcommitting to others while neglecting yourself is a habit many people develop without realizing how much it affects them. It may start with small favors like agreeing to cover a shift, helping with a project, or running errands for someone else. Each request on its own feels manageable, but together they begin to crowd out the time and energy needed for personal responsibilities and well-being. Overcommitting usually comes from good intentions. People want to be reliable, supportive, and liked. However, when commitments pile up, the cost is often hidden. Sleep gets cut short, meals become rushed, or personal goals are pushed aside. For example, someone may agree to help a colleague after work and then cancel their own gym session. Or they might spend a weekend assisting with family tasks while leaving no time to rest or prepare for the week ahead. Over time, this creates a pattern where other people's needs consistently take priority over one's own. The issue is not helping others, but neglecting balance. A person who never sets boundaries risks burnout. They may feel resentful even as they continue to say yes, or they may start dropping commitments altogether because the load has become unmanageable. This affects both personal health and the quality of support they can actually provide. Being stretched thin often leads to doing things half-heartedly or with unnecessary stress. Protecting time for yourself is not selfish. It allows you to handle your own needs so that when you do help others, you are doing so with energy and focus. Simple steps like pausing before agreeing, checking your schedule, or setting limits on how much you take on can prevent this mistake from building. Neglecting yourself while constantly overcommitting to others is a mistake that gradually reduces both personal well-being and genuine effectiveness in supporting others. Ignoring luck, life is filled with effort, planning, and decision-making. However, luck plays a larger role than most people like to admit. Ignoring the influence of chance is a common mistake because it leads to the belief that outcomes are entirely the result of personal skill or effort, while preparation and discipline matter. Luck often determines whether those qualities pay off at the right moment. Consider two equally qualified job applicants. Both have strong resumes, similar experience, and good interviews. One receives the offer simply because they happened to apply on the day a position opened, or because a hiring manager related to a detail in their background that does not erase their effort, but timing and circumstance, both outside their control, played a decisive role. Luck also appears in everyday experiences. The city you were born in, the family you grow up with, or even the teacher assigned to you in school can change the trajectory of your opportunities. A student encouraged by one teacher might pursue a subject they never considered, while another student with equal ability might not get that push. These are random factors that shape long-term outcomes. Acknowledging luck does not mean dismissing hard work. It means understanding that success is usually a mix of preparation and chance. People who underestimate luck often take full credit for their achievements while unfairly blaming others for struggling. This view can create unrealistic expectations and lead to frustration when things do not work out despite effort. Recognizing the role of luck allows for more realistic planning, greater humility, and more empathy toward others. It encourages you to focus on what can be controlled while staying aware that chance events always play a part in shaping results. Holding grudges. Holding grudges can linger long after the original problem has passed. Holding grudges often feels justified in the moment, but over time it becomes a burden that affects more than the relationship itself. A grudge starts when someone feels wronged. Maybe a friend cancelled plans at the last minute, a coworker took credit for an idea, or a family member made a hurtful remark. Instead of addressing the issue directly, the frustration is stored away. At first, it seems harmless, but as days and weeks pass, the unresolved feeling grows heavier. What was once a single event becomes a filter through which all future interactions are judged. In daily life, this shows up in small but constant ways. Avoiding someone at work, feeling tension during family gatherings, or replaying an argument over and over in your head are all signs of a grudge being carried. These reactions consume mental energy and extend the impact of the original conflict far longer than necessary. The mistake lies in underestimating how much this prolonged resentment takes from the person holding it. Stress increases, interactions become more strained, and opportunities for repair shrink the longer the silence continues. Meanwhile, the other person may have moved on entirely, leaving only one side weighed down by the memory. Letting go of grudges does not mean excusing harmful behavior. It means choosing not to let a single event shape future experiences more than it needs to. Addressing issues directly, setting boundaries, or simply deciding not to dwell on them are healthier responses than carrying the weight indefinitely. The longer a grudge is held, the more it controls the person carrying it. This is why learning to release it is an important step in protecting personal well-being. Unlimited time. There will always be more time. Tasks get postponed, goals are delayed, and important conversations are pushed aside with the idea that they can be handled later. The mistake lies in believing that time is endless, when in reality, it is one of the most limited resources people have. At first, this belief shows up in small ways. Someone might delay learning a skill they care about, assuming they can start next month. A family member might be put off with the idea that there will be another chance to visit soon. Even health can be neglected under the assumption that there is plenty of time to change habits later. Each decision seems harmless in the moment, but they add up over the years. The reality is that time moves in one direction. Lost hours, days, or years cannot be regained. For example, a person who always tells themselves they will eventually exercise may find that their body no longer responds the way it once did. A parent who plans to spend more time with their child later may discover that the child has already grown into independence. These shifts happen quietly, and by the time they are noticed, the chance to act may have already passed. Recognizing the limits of time is not about pressure, but about perspective. Choosing to act now on the things that matter, whether that means addressing health, maintaining relationships, or pursuing long-term goals, prevents regret later, every day. Decisions like setting aside 1 hour to call someone important or finally starting a project reflect an understanding that time is not unlimited. The real mistake is living as though there will always be another chance, when, in truth, time is finite. Too old to start. Believing you are too old to start something new is a common thought for many people who reach a certain age and feel that new opportunities have passed them by. The idea that you are too old to begin something different is a mistake that quietly closes doors long before they need to be shut. Age does change the way we approach challenges, but it doesn't prevent growth, skill building, or achievement unless we allow it to. Many adults avoid picking up hobbies or skills they once dreamed about because they believe those things belong to a younger stage of life. Someone in their 40s might dismiss the thought of learning to play the guitar, assuming it is only practical for teenagers. Another person in their 50s may want to return to school, but tell themselves it is unrealistic. These beliefs do not reflect ability so much as they reflect perception. Starting later may require different pacing and adjustments, but it still allows progress and satisfaction. In many cases, starting something new later in life actually brings advantages. Older learners often have more patience, clearer goals, and better discipline than when they were younger. A person who decides to take up painting in midlife, for example, can draw on years of observation and focus, creating a different quality of work than they might have as a beginner in their teens. Similarly, a career change or new business venture may succeed because of accumulated experience rather than in spite of it. The belief that age is a barrier usually grows from comparisons to others or cultural expectations about what stages of life should look like. But in reality, many people achieve meaningful accomplishments well beyond what is considered the right time. Believing you are too old to start something new is a mistake because it stops progress before it has the chance to begin. Relying on motivation. Relying on motivation instead of discipline can lead to inconsistency. Waking up early to exercise, finishing a project on time, or sticking to a new habit often feels easy on the days when you are motivated. However, motivation is unpredictable, and relying on it alone can quickly turn into a mistake. Discipline, unlike motivation, is about structure and consistency. It keeps you moving even when you don't feel like it. Motivation tends to spike in short bursts, such as when you hear an inspiring story or set a new goal. For example, someone might buy fresh running shoes and feel energized to jog every morning. Yet, as soon as the weather turns cold or work gets busy, that motivation fades. If there's no system or discipline in place, the habit disappears with it. Discipline, on the other hand, creates a framework that doesn't depend on mood or circumstance. It's the act of showing up even when it's inconvenient. Think about brushing your teeth. Most people don't do it because they are motivated each night. They do it because it's a set routine. That same principle applies to building skills, maintaining health, or reaching career milestones. Small daily actions repeated, regardless of how inspired you feel, add up to long-term results. Another common example is studying or working toward a professional goal. Waiting for motivation often leads to procrastination, while disciplined scheduling, like blocking time each evening to focus, makes progress inevitable. The difference is that motivation feels good but is fleeting, while discipline is often uncomfortable at first but produces lasting outcomes. The mistake of relying on motivation instead of discipline lies in expecting energy and enthusiasm to carry you through challenges. Building discipline ensures that effort continues even when motivation is absent, making consistency and real progress possible. Taking sleep for granted. Taking sleep for granted, staying up late to finish work, scrolling through your phone in bed, or cutting back on sleep to make more time in the day feels harmless. In reality, these small choices add up, and sleep is often treated as optional when it is one of the most important foundations of health. Sleep is not simply rest. During the night, the body repairs tissues, the brain processes information, and energy levels are reset for the next day. Skipping these cycles weakens focus, slows reaction times, and makes decision-making harder. A person who consistently sleeps 5 or 6 hours instead of the 7th or the 8th of May notice more irritability, weaker memory, or constant fatigue even if they do not link these problems directly to lack of sleep. Over time, the effects become more serious. Chronic sleep deprivation increases the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. It also weakens the immune system, making it harder to fight infections. For many people, the signs appear gradually: morning grogginess, reliance on caffeine, or trouble staying alert through the day. These are often dismissed as normal, but they are early warnings of an ongoing problem. Prioritizing sleep does not require drastic changes. Simple adjustments, such as keeping a consistent bedtime, limiting screen use before bed, and creating a dark, quiet environment, make it easier to fall asleep and stay asleep. Even an extra hour of rest each night improves mood, focus, and long-term health. Taking sleep for granted is a mistake because it undermines both daily performance and future well-being, turning what should be a natural advantage into an unnecessary struggle. Pride blocking help. Letting pride stop you from asking for help struggling with a task. Feeling overwhelmed or facing a problem alone often comes from the belief that asking for help is a sign of weakness. Pride can make people push through on their own, even when support is available and would make the situation easier at its core. Pride in independence is not harmful. It motivates self-reliance and persistence. But when it prevents someone from reaching out, it turns into a barrier. A student might avoid asking a teacher to clarify a concept and fall further behind. An employee may refuse to seek guidance from a colleague and waste days solving a problem that could have been resolved in an hour. In personal life, someone might hide financial or emotional struggles from friends or family, fearing judgment, only to face greater consequences later. The cost of not asking for help is often more time, more stress, and sometimes unnecessary failure. Everyone has limits, and collaboration is what allows people to overcome them. A different perspective, an extra set of hands, or the experience of someone who has already solved the problem can prevent small challenges from turning into major setbacks. Cultural pressure also plays a role. Many societies reward self-sufficiency and celebrate people who appear to manage everything alone. But in practice, success in nearly every field is built on networks of cooperation, mentorship, and shared knowledge. Acknowledging that reality makes asking for help less about weakness and more about efficiency. Letting pride stop you from asking for help is a mistake because it creates unnecessary obstacles and prevents people from using the resources and support already around them. Staying in toxic relationships. Staying in relationships long after they have turned toxic is a common mistake. Arguments that never get resolved, constant tension, or the feeling of walking on eggshells are signs that a relationship has shifted from supportive to harmful. When this becomes the norm, staying in it too long can slowly damage mental and emotional health. A toxic relationship is not defined by a single bad day. It develops when negative patterns repeat constant criticism, manipulation, lack of trust, or withdrawal of affection. Instead of feeling safe and valued, one or both people feel drained and diminished over time. People often remain in these relationships for reasons that make sense in the moment. Some worry about the years they have already invested. Others fear loneliness, and practical concerns like shared housing or finances create barriers to leaving. The result is that harmful dynamics continue even when both parties recognize the situation is unhealthy. The cost of staying too long is more than emotional discomfort. Prolonged stress from constant conflict can lead to anxiety, disrupted sleep, and even physical health problems. It can also hold someone back from growth, as energy is consumed by managing tension instead of building a better future. Recognizing when a relationship has crossed into toxic territory requires stepping back and honestly assessing its impact. Setting boundaries, seeking outside perspectives, or deciding to walk away are all healthier options than enduring an environment that consistently harms well-being. Remaining in relationships long after they have turned toxic is a mistake because it trades stability for harm, preventing people from moving on to healthier connections. Neglecting friendships when life gets busy, work deadlines, family responsibilities, and everyday tasks often take priority, and friendships are the first thing to be set aside. It doesn't happen all at once. At first, it's skipping a call, postponing a plan, or assuming you'll reconnect later. Over time, those small delays can turn into years of distance. Friendships are unique because they don't demand constant attention to survive, but they do require consistent effort to stay strong. A quick message, sharing a meal, or showing up during important moments keeps the connection alive. Without that effort, even close friends begin to feel like acquaintances. When life is busy, it's easy to treat friendships as optional. But the cost of neglect is often realized only when support is needed and the bond has weakened. The impact goes beyond losing social contact. Strong friendships provide emotional balance, help reduce stress, and create a sense of belonging that work and family alone cannot replace. Neglecting these relationships can increase feelings of isolation, even when surrounded by people every day. For example, someone may have a busy career and a family at home, but still feel disconnected because they no longer maintain friendships. Outside those circles, maintaining friendships doesn't require large amounts of time. Simple habits, such as checking in regularly, setting aside a few hours each month to meet, or remembering important events, can preserve bonds for decades. These small actions accumulate into trust and closeness that remain valuable throughout life. Neglecting friendships when life gets busy is a mistake because it quietly erodes one of the most reliable sources of support and joy, leaving people without connections that could have been sustained with consistent care. Bottling emotions, holding back emotions often feels like the safest option. People stay quiet about frustration, hide sadness, or suppress anger because they don't want to burden others or appear vulnerable. While it can seem like control, in the moment, consistently hiding emotions creates long-term costs. Emotions are signals. They communicate needs, boundaries, and reactions both to ourselves and to others. When ignored or hidden, those signals don't disappear, they build up. A person who never admits stress at work may eventually burn out. Someone who avoids expressing hurt in a relationship may grow resentful, allowing distance to develop. In both cases, unspoken emotions turn into larger problems because they were never addressed directly. The habit of hiding feelings often comes from cultural expectations, family patterns, or fear of judgment. Children might grow up hearing that showing emotions is a weakness and carry that lesson into adulthood. In professional settings, people may worry that honesty about pressure or mistakes will be seen as incompetence. Over time, bottling up feelings can lead to anxiety, depression, or sudden emotional outbursts when the pressure becomes too much. Expressing emotions doesn't mean losing control or sharing everything. It means communicating clearly in ways that allow others to understand what's going on. This can be as simple as telling a friend you're having a hard day, letting a partner know when something bothers you, or admitting to a manager that a project requires support. These small expressions build trust and prevent misunderstandings. Hiding emotions instead of expressing them is a mistake because it blocks healthy communication and creates unnecessary stress that often grows worse over time. Believing failure is permanent. Everyone experiences failure at some point, whether it's a poor grade, a rejected application, or a project that doesn't go as planned. The mistake comes from treating those failures as permanent rather than as part of a process that can eventually lead to improvement. Failure feels final because the immediate impact is uncomfortable. Losing a job or being turned down for an opportunity can affect confidence and create the sense that progress has stopped altogether. For many people, this feeling lingers and shapes the decisions they make afterward. Instead of trying again, they avoid similar risks, assuming the outcome will always be the same. The problem is that most success is built on repeated attempts. A student who fails an exam can still pass the course by adjusting study methods. A business owner who launches A product that doesn't sell can use the lessons from that experience to refine the next one. Even in personal life, failed relationships or missteps in communication often provide the clarity needed to do better in the future. Treating failure as permanent blocks the opportunity to learn and adapt from those experiences. The practical difference between people who recover from failure and those who don't often comes down to perspective. Viewing setbacks as information rather than proof of inadequacy allows for growth. This does not mean ignoring mistakes, but recognizing that the outcome of one attempt does not define the outcome of all future ones. Believing failure is permanent is a mistake because it turns temporary setbacks into lasting barriers, limiting progress that could have come from persistence and adaptation. Pleasing everyone. Trying to please everyone, agreeing to requests you do not have time for. Avoiding disagreement to keep the peace, or constantly adjusting your behavior to meet others' expectations are all signs of trying to please everyone. While it may reduce tension in the moment, this habit often creates more problems than it solves. The desire to please comes from wanting to be liked and accepted. It can feel easier to say yes than to risk disappointing someone. At work, this might mean taking on tasks outside your role, even when your own workload is already full. In friendships, it can look like always going along with plans you do not enjoy. Over time, these choices lead to stress, exhaustion, and a loss of personal boundaries. The issue is that no one can meet every expectation. When people spread themselves too thin, the quality of their commitments drops. A person who tries to keep everyone happy may miss deadlines, forget promises, or feel resentment toward those they are trying to accommodate. Ironically, the effort to please everyone often results in letting more people down. Learning to set limits is a practical solution. Saying no when necessary, being clear about priorities, and accepting that not everyone will agree are ways to maintain balance. People usually respect honesty, and those who do not are less likely to value genuine relationships in the first place. Trying to please everyone is a mistake because it sacrifices personal well-being and effectiveness in an impossible attempt to satisfy everyone's expectations. Overthinking small decisions, spending too much time choosing what to wear, debating what to eat, or worrying about minor details can feel harmless. However, overthinking small decisions quickly adds unnecessary stress to daily life. What should take a few minutes can turn into hours of hesitation and second-guessing. At its core, overthinking is the fear of making the wrong choice, even when the stakes are low. A person may scroll through endless restaurant options before meeting friends, delaying plans that could have started earlier. Another person may spend days tweaking a minor detail of a project instead of moving forward. While the intent is to make the best possible decision, the result is usually wasted time, drained energy, and added frustration. The problem is magnified because mental energy is limited. When too much focus is placed on small choices, there is less capacity left for decisions that truly matter. This is why some people adopt routines or simplify options, such as preparing meals in advance or sticking to a set morning routine. Reducing the number of trivial decisions frees up attention for work, relationships, and long-term goals. Overthinking also prevents progress. Even if the choice is eventually made, the constant back and forth delays action. In many cases, the outcome of a small decision has little long-term impact, but the habit of overanalyzing creates stress that compounds over time. Recognizing which decisions are low stakes and moving through them quickly is a practical way to prevent decision fatigue. Overthinking small decisions is a mistake because it consumes time and energy that could be better used for choices with real significance. Avoiding early risks, turning down opportunities because they feel uncertain, is a common choice. However, avoiding risks when the stakes are low often leads to missed chances for growth. The early stages of life or career are usually the most flexible, yet many people hesitate to take action because they fear failure. Risk is often seen as something to avoid, but not all risks are equal. Trying a new field of study, starting a small business, or moving to a different city while young carries fewer long-term consequences than doing so later in life. At a time when responsibilities are lighter and the cost of failure is smaller, these choices can provide valuable experience and open doors to opportunities that would otherwise remain closed. The problem arises when fear of embarrassment or short-term loss outweighs the potential benefits. Someone might stay in a familiar but unfulfilling job instead of exploring a new role, or decline to travel or pursue education abroad because it feels uncertain. These decisions create safety in the moment but limit what can be learned and achieved in the long run. As people get older, responsibilities such as family, financial commitments, and health make it harder to take bold steps. The risks feel heavier, and opportunities are often evaluated more cautiously. Looking back, many regret not taking risks earlier when they had the flexibility to recover from setbacks. Taking risks does not mean acting recklessly. It means recognizing when the potential gains outweigh the limited downsides and using periods of greater freedom to experiment, learn, and grow. Not taking risks when you had less to lose is a mistake because it wastes opportunities that are hardest to recover later in life. Staying in hated jobs, dragging yourself out of bed every morning to go to a job you dislike, is an experience many people know well. What often begins as a temporary compromise can quietly turn into years spent in work that feels draining and unfulfilling. There are practical reasons people stay in jobs they hate. A steady paycheck, benefits, or the fear of unemployment make it difficult to leave. Over time, routine takes over, and the thought of making a change feels overwhelming. This leads to a situation where someone continues showing up each day, even though the work provides little satisfaction or growth. The impact extends beyond the workplace. Spending 8 or more hours a day in an environment that feels negative affects mood, energy, and relationships outside of work. People may come home exhausted, disengaged, or irritable, leaving less time and energy for family, hobbies, or personal goals. Over the years, this can create a sense of being stuck, with life revolving around obligations rather than choices. Remaining in an unfulfilling job also limits opportunities for progress. Skills may stagnate, confidence can decrease, and the longer someone stays, the harder it becomes to imagine alternatives. In contrast, even small steps toward exploring new fields, training, or side projects can gradually open doors to better options. Work will always involve challenges, but when dissatisfaction is constant, it signals a deeper issue. Staying for years in jobs you secretly hate is a mistake because it trades long-term fulfillment for short-term security, leaving potential unexplored and daily life weighed down by dissatisfaction. Taking parents for granted. Daily routines often make it easy to take parents for granted. Conversations become short, visits are delayed, and the focus shifts to work, friends, or personal goals. Over time, this creates distance, and appreciation is expressed less often than it should be. Parents usually provide consistent support in ways that blend into the background. They offer guidance, handle responsibilities, or simply check in. And because it happens regularly, it can be overlooked. Many people assume this support will always be there, forgetting that time is limited and relationships do not last forever. The regret becomes clear when it is too late to express gratitude directly. People often look back wishing they had made more calls, asked more questions, or said thank you more often. Small acts of acknowledgement, such as sharing a meal, listening to their stories, or showing interest in their daily lives, make a big difference but are frequently postponed in the rush of everyday obligations. Appreciation doesn't require grand gestures, simple recognition, respect for their efforts, and spending time together create meaningful memories. These actions also strengthen the bond between generations, allowing parents to feel valued while giving children a clearer sense of connection and identity. When parents are no longer around, the absence highlights how much they contributed. What once felt ordinary is remembered as irreplaceable, and the chance to show appreciation is gone. Forgetting to appreciate parents until they are gone is a mistake, because it overlooks one of the most important relationships in life while there is still time to nurture it.